Africa's beacon of democracy. Why do I say that? Simply because many, or like around 6 or 7 West African countries have experienced coups since 2020. Just for example, Mali experienced a coup in 2020, Gabon and Niger had coups in 2023, Burkina Faso had a coup in 2022, while Guinea and Chad had coups in 2021. What makes Senegal special? Senegal is the only country that has not experienced coups in the West African region, but the democracy was at stake. Now, tonight we just delve deeper into the Senegalese election and what it means for the West African country. First of all, we look at the population of this country, which is estimated to be around 18 million people. 18 million people in Senegal. And of course, going into the election period, only 7.3 million Senegalese had registered themselves to vote in that particular election. The number of presidential candidates that, of course, were gunning to replace incumbent president, that is Macky Sall, were 17. Now, of the 17, there were the front runners who were most likely to, of course, clinch the presidency amid the chaos that has rocked that particular country in the past 2 years. One is a candidate fronted by the incumbent, that is Macky Sall, and the candidate is former Prime Minister Amadou Ba of course, the ruling coalition. Amadou Ba is 61 years of age and belongs to the APR political party. His main rival is Bassirou Diomaye Faye of the opposition, and is age 44 and belongs to the Positive political party. Just to give you an overview of Bassirou Diomaye Faye, he was not supposed to be on the ballot gunning for the presidency, but of course, Ousmane Sonko. But he was barred from gunning for the presidency by the court in Senegal. So what did Ousmane Sonko decide to do? Front one of his party members, one of the fellows who helped him founding the Positive party in 2017. And that is, of course, Bassirou Diomaye Faye. And the duo, of course, were released only a week ago from prison. A week later, Bassirou Faye Diomaye is giving the incumbent president and his candidate Amadou Ba a run for their money. But before we get into those particular details, I want us to look at the key dates in the Senegalese calendar. First of all is the 25th of February 2024. That was then when the election was scheduled to be held. February 25th of February 2024. But elections failed to happen because the president and the ruling coalition did vote through parliament to postpone the elections for 10 months. In that particular debate in the, of course, parliament in Senegal, a section of opposition lawmakers said they will oppose, and they indeed opposed that particular proposal by the ruling coalition. And despite the opposition it faced, like they say in parliament, it's a game of numbers. The ruling coalition did manage to, of course, postpone the elections from the 25th to the 15th of December 2024. However, that was not to be, because the Supreme Court of Senegal did decline or did overturn the decision by the parliament to postpone the elections for 10 months. Now, just to put it into perspective, is that Macky Sall's tenure is expected to end on the 2nd of April 2024. And if at all the elections are to be postponed to the 15th of December 2024, it means Macky Sall would have extended his tenure as the president. We'll look at Macky Sall's tenure and what he's been able to do when he got into power a bit later on. Now, 24th March of 2024, that was when the new election date, the new election date that was set after the Supreme Court did, of course, overturn the proposals approved by the parliament to postpone the elections. That was yesterday, and the elections were held in a very peaceful manner. One of the reasons as to why Senegal is credited as West Africa's beacon of democracy. No chaos was witnessed despite months of chaos, of course, following the arrest and prosecution of Ousmane Sonko, who's termed as the fan favorite in Senegal, and of course his ally, Bassirou Diomaye Faye. Now, like I said, 2nd of April 2024 was the date when Macky Sall's tenure was supposed to end as the president of Senegal. Let's cross over to the key numbers in Senegal, and of course in regards to the state of that West African country, and of course again the election. Now, according to statistics, 60% of the population in Senegal are 25 years and below. A whooping 60%. And that just puts him into perspective why Ousmane Sonko, who is termed as a youth, has a very huge fan base or support in that particular country. Now, according to International Labour Organization, a report by International Labour Organization in 2019, the rate of unemployment was at 35%. That was in 2019, a report that was done by International Labour Organization. Now, of the 17 million people in Senegal, a population or people in the region of 7 million to 8 million are living in poverty. 7 to 8 million people are living in poverty. Now, fast forward into the figures regarding the election is that 71% of the 7.3 million people who had registered to vote turned out to vote in yesterday's presidential election. Now, that is according to RTS, the state media. We had a total of 15,633 polling stations in yesterday's elections, and to the most important figure is that for you to be declared the winner, you must, of course, garner 50 plus votes in, of course, of the total votes cast in that particular election. Now, going into the election, most people in Senegal talked about the issues that they're facing. And two key issues emerged as the main concerns for the citizens of Senegal, especially the youth who now want a change in the highest office in the land. One, of course, is unemployment. And like I said, a majority of those who are unemployed are the youth. The other thing is the state of economy. The people in Senegal do decry the rising the cost of living, of course, the cost of common commodities going up day in, day out. Those are the two key issues that Senegalese citizens want the new administration to address. Now, let's look at President Macky Sall's tenure. Macky Sall did ascend to power in 2012. Now, during the campaigns, Macky Sall said he will look at the constitution and revise the term that a president is supposed to serve. Now, he was elected in 2012. He was the aide of the former president. In fact, he was the director of campaigns. And there was a lot of hope in the West African country, as people rather regarded Macky Sall as the face of hope. Now, he served for the 7 years from 2012 to 2017, and because he, of course, oversaw the review of the constitution, which now meant a president will not serve a term of 7 years but 5 years, he was re-elected in 2019 to serve for the second term. Now, a period of 5 years, as opposed to the 7 years that he served in the first period. However, Macky Sall's tenure as the president, to be specific, the second term was marred with controversy and chaos. Why? Most of the chaos arose from the state of the economy. Macky Sall rose to power on the pretext of ensuring that the economy of Senegal turns around. He vowed to, of course, revive the economy of Senegal. But that was not the case. Again, in the second term, one of the things that caused chaos in the West African country was the fact that Ousmane Sonko was arrested and charged on what citizens in that particular country term as frivolous grounds. The second term of Macky Sall's tenure has, of course, been marred with chaos, like I said, from 2021 all through to 2024, this year, when the president announced that, the elections were to be postponed. Now, moving forward, Macky Sall's tenure as the president of Senegal had two key people who opposed that his presidency, and that is Ousmane Sonko and Bassirou Diomaye Faye. Now, the duo belong to the PASTEF party that, I said, was formed in 2014, and they ran their campaign on the slogan, or with the slogan, Diomaye is Sonko. Meaning, Diomaye, who is now Bassirou, who is leading in that particular race, is Sonko. The man was barred from running, who, like I said, is the fan favorite in the West African country. The duo met during their tenure as tax inspectors in Senegal. Now, let's look at the reasons as to why Bassirou Diomaye Faye and Ousmane Sonko were arrested. Beginning with Ousmane Sonko. Now, he has been arrested 3 times in 2019, 2021, and 2023. Some of the charges that were leveled against him are defamation, rape, which, by the way, he denied, and the court acquitted him of that particular charge, saying he was falsely accused. The other charge that Ousmane Sonko was charged with was, of course, disturbing a public order. And finally, of course, he was barred from running in the presidential election. Going forward to Bassirou Diomaye Faye, he was arrested last year in April 2023, and the charges leveled against him included spreading false news, contempt of court, and defamation of a constituted body. Now, just to take you back, the duo have been in custody. They didn't even have time to campaign, and they were released on the 14th of March 2024, just a week ago. But still, they've given the government and the incumbent president, Macky Sall, and his preferred candidate of the ruling party, that is APR, Amadou Ba, a run for their own money. Now, let's have a look at the key pledges before I give you the update on what is happening currently in Senegal. Bassirou Diomaye Faye pledged several things for the people of Senegal. One is, of course, the separation of judicial and executive powers. He says that the judiciary should work independently, and so should the executive. The other thing that he has promised to deal with, or rather, fight for, is monetary sovereignty. Now, just to put that into perspective, is that Bassirou Diomaye Faye and he says having their own currency will help stimulate and revive the economic situation in the West African country. That is, of course, one of his pledges to introduce a new currency for Senegal. Now, there is rampant corruption in Senegal, and Bassirou Diomaye Faye and Ousmane Sonko in their campaigns talked about fighting corruption. That has been the case across African countries. People want to ascend to power, talk about how they want to fight corruption in their countries, and that is one pledge that Bassirou Faye and Ousmane Sonko did, of course, pledge to the voters in Senegal. Now, finally, because I looked at just 4 of the pledges made by Bassirou Faye, he said he wants to really negotiate the energy contracts between government and various corporations. Remember, the current administration has been accused of corruption even in awarding of contracts, and one particular case, to be specific, was that the incumbent's brother, that is Macky Sall, the president, his brother was awarded a contract in the energy sector worth around $25,000. Now, Bassirou Diomaye Faye and Ousmane Sonko vowed to deal with that particular issue and, of course, ensure that the contracts are renegotiated and reviewed. Now, just so you know, as it stands, the opposition is claiming victory in that particular election as counting of votes continues. Now, 7 of the 17 candidates have conceded defeat and have called Bassirou Diomaye Faye to congratulate him on his election. And just to put into perspective why the opposition claims victory in that particular election is that the ruling coalition's candidate, that is Amadou Ba, himself says he has called Bassirou Diomaye Faye to, of course, congratulate him. And he says he has, of course, conceded defeat in that particular election, an election that many Senegalese citizens deem as a turnaround. And as we wrap up this particular spotlight, is that if indeed it is the case, and like it has been widely reported, Bassirou Diomaye Faye is set to become the next president of Senegal. That will make him the youngest president in the African continent, him being only 44 years old. But just for the official results, we expect that the final provisional results will be announced tomorrow. But the final results, and of course the announcement of who will be the next president of Senegal, is expected to be done on Friday. Now, that is the situation in Senegal, a country that has been marred with chaos in the past 3 years, but that could be coming to an end as the opposition candidate Bassirou Diomaye Faye, who's being backed by the fan favorite Ousmane Sonko, after he was barred from vying for that particular post in that particular election. We'll be following up that particular story just to give you an update of what will be happening and what will be the final outcome in that particular election. On that note, we take a short breather. We'll be back with sports news. Don't go away.